Sure, great. So, yeah, as I mentioned, my name is Vipul Galal. I'm with inCode Telecom, and we've been talking a lot about different players in the mobile payments ecosystem, and what I'm going to be talking about today is what are the operators' role in this ecosystem, and where are they playing, and specifically, what is ISIS doing? What are some of the things that are going for ISIS, and some of the hurdles that ISIS is going to face going forward? So first, let me tell you a little bit about inCode. We're a boutique strategy consulting firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. Our focus is in mobile telecom, but we also do a lot of high-tech projects as well. Our roots are actually right here in Silicon Valley. We were funded by Sequoia Capital in 1998, and since then we've gone through a lot of iterations, but our core has always been strategy consulting. And actually, we have a mobile commerce practice, and so we've done numerous engagements and projects on this topic with mobile operators and Fortune 500 companies. So we're glad to be here. So let me jump into the material. So why are mobile operators playing in the mobile ecosystem place, or mobile payment space specifically? And there's two things I want to show here on these graphs. So this is AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, and in the light colored bars, the larger ones, are their EBITDAs, and the darker colored bars are their CapEx. And you can see that the first thing you may notice is that about half of their earnings are actually spent right back into the network. They're spent right back into CapEx. And this is an interesting point in the sense that, if you compare them to their competitors in this space in mobile payments, none of them have this type of cost structure. Most of them, maybe, for example, Apple and Google, most of them are actually on the OpEx side. And so this is not a point just to kind of keep in the back of your head as thinking about carriers and mobile payments and how their cost structure is set up. And the second thing to notice is if you look at over the last 8 quarters, their EBITDAs are fairly flat, yet they're investing a lot of money in their network. And so they would need to, they're thinking about ways of how to get a stronger return on their assets. And typically it's just voice and data, but what other things can they do? And some of the things that they're thinking about is obviously participating a lot in the cloud ecosystem, so they're making a lot of moves in the enterprise cloud space with, Verizon just acquired Terramark. AT&T has a lot of cloud solutions going on with their enterprise side. And also cloud solutions on the consumer side, so they're dabbling in consumer cloud solutions and even in the application space. But one area that they're definitely going into and see as a big opportunity is mobile payments. And they're not entirely new to the mobile payments ecosystem. They've actually been participating for quite some time. And I'm not sure if many of you remember the premium SMS, and actually it's not gone yet, it's still alive today. Premium SMS as a mechanism for payment. And it actually was more suited for during the feature phone days, in the sense that if you're not familiar with it, is that you may see a banner or a billboard or print advertisement that says, text this 5-digit 7 code to get the latest top 40 song or the latest wallpaper or the horoscope, a daily horoscope. And after the person or the user texts that number to text that number with their feature phone, or any phone for that matter, they get a text back saying, would you like to get this wallpaper for $199? The user would respond with yes. They would receive the content, and then the $199 charge would be charged to their mobile bill. And this was great for the operators for multiple reasons. One was that it got some developer adoption because it was a multi-carrier thing. It was a solution that had a multi-carrier that was supported by a multitude of carriers. So they enlisted third-party parties, aggregators, to come in and set up binds with their networks from a billing and SMS perspective, create this solution, and so developers were on board with using it. The other thing, too, was that they received great rev shares. They were receiving 30, 50, and even some instances 60% of rev shares on the content that's being distributed through premium SMS, which was great. But there's 2 hurdles in terms of what they're facing now. One is that there's a limited amount of money that can be charged to a mobile bill without a bank backing per a month. And so they face some regulatory issues from that aspect. And the second thing was, there's a limited amount of total transactions, so the value, the total amount of value per transaction was also limited through regulations. And I think the more important one in terms here is it was a primitive experience. It's not, kind of doesn't live up to the kind of sexy new consumer experience that are offered by smartphones. And so they're seeing, I think what they're seeing is a smaller adoption of premium SMS as new solutions are coming out there. And so now, we're seeing indications of premium that's kind of going down. And so now what mobile operators are doing to still capitalize on this space is to release mobile payment APIs. Verizon had released a mobile payment API through their VCast App Store. AT&T just released a mobile payment API CES. And so they are trying to participate in this payment API ecosystem. And what we've seen so far is that they're actually seeing a limited amount of success with their payment APIs, and there's a few reasons for that. And I think the most important one is that the payment APIs in which they've issued directly from the carriers is that they're single carrier, they're not multi-carrier. And when developers are developing their apps, I don't think that they want to be developing apps and spending time developing against an API where they can only address about a third of the market share. And so we think that's the biggest reason why they're getting a limited amount of adoption. The second reason is that they're a little late to the party, right? So Apple, Google, Facebook, PayPal, they've released payment APIs quite significantly before the carriers, and so they're coming a little late to the party, and so developers have already are using those APIs from a payment perspective, and then they may not be seeing the need to develop against a carrier payment API. And so now what our carriers face with kind of declining trends in premium SMS, small adoption of payment APIs, what we think that they're doing is they're really doubling down on ISIS. And we've listed a few things here, and we'll get into the presentation as to what are the things that are going for ISIS, and what are the winning themes of ISIS, and what are the hurdles that they're facing. But definitely, that it looks like a very strong opportunity for the carriers, and in our opinion, it looks like that the ISIS mobile wallet will probably gain some traction in the marketplace as soon as it launches nationwide. So what are the things? So let me go over ISIS. I'm pretty sure that probably most of you are familiar with the initiative. It's a joint venture between AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Over $100 million in investment, and I think they've all indicated that if the venture does gain traction, they're willing to invest more capital into ISIS as it grows. In terms of vision, we've listed these boxes here and just taken this straight from the website. Standard mobile wallet functionalities, credit cards, debit cards, a cash card, integrating some loyalty cards and offers, and that's not established yet, but that's what their planning is and from their initial vision. But even if you go on their website, they have even a grander vision than this and multitude of use cases for using NFC. For example, using it for public transportation, or using it to check in for a flight, or using it for marketing engagement. So walking up to a banner ad or a billboard and tapping your phone against it to get some marketing content. So this is the kind of the grander vision of what they're seeing, but I think they're starting off with this base of a standard mobile wallet. And as they're transitioning and starting to launch this mobile wallet, they've enlisted a strong set of partners to help them get off the ground. And actually this list is fairly impressive in the sense that they've listed all the prime players, from payment networks to banks to the TSM, all the way down to the point of sale, which is they've recently signed some partners. And this is a big thing in the sense that the point of sale partners are huge in the sense that what we've read is that point of sale machines and mechanisms, they have about a 5 to 7 year shelf life. And so as these guys, Verifone and these different point of sale providers, machine providers, offer off their phones to merchants, you might start seeing ISIS capable point of sale machines in your stores in the near future. So with that being said, ISIS has all these things going with them. They have a strong base, but we don't think that this alone will actually get them where they need to go and from a mobile payment wallet perspective. Their competitors can set up the same type of look and feel, and actually most of their competitors are actually following this kind of mobile wallet theme. And so why do we think that ISIS is actually going to gain some traction in the marketplace? And then we have kind of listing out 3 reasons. Well, number 1 is access to customers, and then just AT&T and Verizon alone, they get about 2/3 of the market. And you throw T-Mobile in the mix, they get about 75% of the market. And this is pretty interesting in the sense that if you look at their competitors, really no one has that type of market share. Banks are fairly fragmented in the consumer base. Apple and Google definitely don't have that type of market share. So from the market share experience and from a direct relationship with the consumer, 75% is a fairly attractive, fairly good thing in terms of accessing customers. The other thing too is they have access to big data about the consumers. Most of their customers they've had established relationship for many years, so they know about the person's age, their demographics, their credit score, their billing information, etc. They also, they haven't announced that they're going to be using network in any way within ISIS, but the capability is still there and is always there for the carriers to implement as a side item to supplement ISIS. And then secondly, and the last thing here is, which is important because I think in the presentation yesterday, Apple has a patent on iWallet with parental controls. Carriers also have this same information in the sense that many or maybe even majority of their plans that they issue are through family plans, and so they do know a lot about your family. It's not just a relationship with the account holder, but also a relationship with all the family members within the account, and they can be offering similar features such as parental control and a mobile wallet for the family. So that's number 1, just access to the customers. And number 2 is ownership of device distribution, with the sole mechanism of you customers in the U.S. getting handsets is through carrier retail channels. And secondly, the carriers are subsidizing the cost of these phones, and so they have a large say in terms of what are the features that go into these phones and how what's inside of them. And this pie chart here shows that since they have that control, it's no surprise that a lot of OEMs and device manufacturers have signed up to be partners with ISIS. And so from a 2011 handset sales perspective, if you look at all the partners that have agreed to sign up for ISIS from an OEM device perspective, that's 50% of all handsets that are sold. So if this trend continues in 2012 and in the future, and this kind of 50% of all handset sales do support ISIS, that is another thing that it really supports ISIS in terms of gaining traction in the marketplace. One thing to note here is that I've excluded Motorola. And Motorola, I think with the times of being acquired by Google wasn't official, or even prior to the Google acquisition, they agreed to be a part of ISIS. And since being acquired by Google, I don't think they've made any statements about ISIS. But it'll be interesting to watch them to see where they play in an ISIS initiative. Will they be supporting ISIS, or will they be holding out in order to support Google? And I'll come back to that point a little bit about the Google-Motorola strategy and what that means to the mobile payments ecosystem. So the second point here is about the device and owning the device. What does that mean? So by owning the device and owning device distribution and having a large say in device features, that kind of leads into the secure element. And by owning device distribution, these OEMs being participants in ISIS, that means that the operators actually own the secure element on the phone. And then the ISIS initiative has gone through a secure element through a SIM-based SC. And within itself, it has a lot of benefits. So one is that the SIM card is mobile, and so that as a consumer changes their phone from every 2 years or 2 to 3 years, they take their secure element information. So that secure element, the place where all the secure financial information and card information is stored, they can take that with them from phone to phone to phone. Secondly, it's highly secure, so all financial institutions have signed off on the security of a SIM-based SC solution. Third is that the consumers actually, if they ever lose their phone or misplace their phone or want to stop transactions occurring from a certain phone or from their SIM card, it's a simple phone call away to their operator, and the operator can immediately shut down services from that secure element. And it's a plus for the operators because it's easily deployable. SIM cards is something that they issue, and across all markets with LTE, so most LTE markets are going to be SIM card based, and so that this gives them a strong advantage. And this is actually kind of the golden crown for operators owning the mobile wallet space, in the sense that if they do continue to own the relationship with the device manufacturers and they keep the ecosystem closed and do not allow anybody else to have a secure element on the phone, and there's other solutions out there, but just from a kind of plain come out of the store experience, this gives them a huge competitive advantage. And we're seeing this in the marketplace today with the Google Nexus S and Verizon. The Google Nexus S is NFC compatible. The base install of Android has Google Wallet, but the Verizon version, it has that feature disabled. And I think the carriers and Google are starting to go back and forth as to what is going to happen in the future. And Google is obviously pleading for an open ecosystem and allowing multitude, or let the consumer choose what wallet is on the phone, and let them have access to the secure element that's featured on from any OEM or software provider. But the carriers, since they own the distribution and kind of own the feature set of the phones, if they keep it enclosed, and they really have a strong way of keeping all the players out and being the sole mobile wallet on the phone. So kind of to recap here, so the three things that ISIS has in terms from an experience, and then do they have all the cards? And it seems like they have a lot of things going from the access to the customer, 75% of the marketplace, device distribution, so the consumers that are buying the phones are getting phones with ISIS already in them, and they really, with the secure element, if they do in fact keep it closed, consumers may not have another choice other than to use ISIS as their only mobile wallet. So just based on those three things, we think that ISIS is probably going to have some strong traction going forward, and at least will play some type of role in the mobile payments ecosystem. But with that being said, we do think that there's going to be a few hurdles that they're going to face. And And one key one I think everyone knows is Apple. Apple is kind of the rock in a carrier's shoe, in the sense that they drive a lot of data revenue to the carriers, and so they drive a lot of voice and data revenue to the carriers, and then also they may be credited for the smartphone revolution. But at the same time, they're very unique from a device perspective, an OEM perspective. They've created deals with the carriers that the carriers don't have any influence on the feature set of the phones. And I'd be actually very highly surprised if Apple did in fact support ISIS one day. I would think that they're probably going to support or create their own solution. And so being Apple and being how innovative they are, whatever they do may be disruptive to ISIS. And then going back to the Motorola point I made earlier. So Google's acquisition of Motorola, it's unclear as to what their strategy is with them and what they're going to do with them, but one of the things that we may think that they may be thinking about with Motorola is conducting a dual-pronged strategy. So continue with their open Android ecosystem and allowing Samsung, HTC, and various OEMs capitalize on Android and have the search and advertising revenue come from that. But Google is also looking into creating their own ecosystem very similar to Apple, with Google Hangouts and Google Plus and now Google Wallets and all their Google documents and applications and cloud-based applications. And in order to effectively do that, they may be thinking about creating their own closed phone very similar to the iPhone. And this way they'll be able to compete with Apple directly. And in fact, if they do that and able to set up deals with carriers very similar to Apple, that can be very disruptive to the ecosystem from a mobile payments perspective, in the sense that you have an Apple wallet and you have a Google wallet, and consumers might be doing those big two innovative companies offering that solution. That can be fairly disruptive to ISIS. And the last 2 points kind of tied together here is that there's mobile wallets popping up every day. I think it was mentioned yesterday that Target and Walmart are coming together to create their own mobile wallet. Apple and Google obviously are going to be creating, and Microsoft is often left out of the conversation, but obviously they probably have something up their sleeve. Different banks are announcing different mobile wallets. And so the space is wide open, it's very nascent, and there's a lot of competition in the marketplace. So it's not for sure a sign that just because that ISIS has all these three things that I mentioned, that they're a sure shot in being the preferred mobile wallet provider, so the competition does offer a threat. And the second thing is that because there's all this competition there and the list of competitors that they're going up against is big, and the market's so nascent, and there's a lot of room for innovation in the market, is that the operators, this is not their bread and butter, right? Operators are generally a little slower, and they're very good at rolling out networks, but when it comes to rolling out great user experiences and software solutions, that's something that they don't have a lot of experience in. And so if there is some type of shift in the market, or there's some type of why in the road when it comes to mobile payments and it goes in a direction that they weren't originally expecting, then the carriers might be a little slow in adapting to that shift. And it's just the reason, kind of go back to that CapEx argument, it's that's not the way they think, and that's not the way their cost structure is set up compared to their competitors. But overall, even though with these hurdles, we do think that with the secure element, with the device ownership and the access to customers, we do think that they'll have some type of traction in the mobile wallet space, and you'll probably be seeing some ISIS point-of-sale mechanisms in your stores and in your offline purchases over the next few years. And so that's pretty much what I have. I'd be open for questions.